Set to go. Hope you're tied on as we welcome everybody to this live Friday edition of Gulfstream West Today. Here from GPW, Ron Nicoletti, Jason Blewett alongside. Want to welcome track announcer Mike Carter to the family there. We heard Mike for a few seconds, obviously with Pete Aiello. Big Pete on vacation. We'll be hearing the dulcet tones from Mike throughout the afternoon.
Yeah, it sounded pretty good getting us ready for this afternoon's wagering. So we'll see how Mike does. I guess we'll get to meet him a little later. We'll go downstairs and check him out.
You got that right, my friend, and you can take that to the window. Now, Big Friday, of course, another weekend. We're inching closer to the Breeders' Cup. About three weeks on the nose out from Breeders' Cup Friday at Churchill Downs, November 2nd. But what about what's going on here in Miami Gardens? Well, we're back on the turf today, which is always appreciated, and we've got a rundown as to what's on tap this Friday, October 12th. The High Five and the First Pick Five all get underway with arguably the best race on the card. Today's first is an absolute turf war. A bit later, well, we picked up about 4K yesterday in the Rainbow Six.
Yeah, we have about 4,000 in the Rainbow Six. We had a couple of races come off the turf that were alls in there, but 4,000 to start the afternoon, and we'll see how this thing plays out the rest of the day. Of course, we end the afternoon with our final pick five, and we got a 9-race card, so that'll kick off in race number 5.
And let's not forget, Race 7 here today at GPW kicks off week number 3 in the 12% takeout Stronach 5, a $1 wager. We did the preview show. That's up on xbtv.com. It's made the rounds on social media. Very easy to find, and a fast-moving show that clocks in at about 19 minutes with a lot of content. If you want to check that out, feel free. And don't forget, free past performances for the Stronach 5 available at gulfstreampark.com. And I hope, Ronnie, I can parlay the winnings from this early pick 5 score into the Stronach 5 and the Rainbow 6 as we set sail at about 1:20 p.m. And we've got a really, how good is the first race today on the turf?
Yeah, it's just so competitive. What you like to see in the first leg, you went to 3 deep in there, and I could understand that. We sort of in agreement with the number 3. After that, we get a little. Now I got the 8-2, great dude. So
I hear sort of, and I know not. That means in Ron Nicoletti speak, not really. Maybe we've got 1 or 2 horses on each other's respective supers. I like the speed and connections. I've got good barns here at the helm with Kathleen O'Connell and Yale Deal, and the number 5 Deep Fire for Yvonne Belsour in the second. Third race really, to me, boils down between the grudge match, and you went Heidi Ho over Queen of Credit. They come out of the same race.
Yeah, and they ran exactly. We're going to show that a little later on. It's a great race. And the reason I went with Heidi Ho just this little bit more was because of the addition of blinkers today. That was my deciding factor.
Maybe that'll help her. Now, what do we get from Bodie Babe in the 4th race today? She ran just 15 days ago, lost all chance. A really tough beginning, and you'll see a head-on shot of her at least the first few yards or so in that September 27th debut. I'm going to bite here and say she's probably pretty good and just had no chance after that start.
Yeah, she took a lot of money. She was the even money favorite. She stumbled at the start, and then she just never looked comfortable thereafter in that race. But I did go with the 7, the Gospel of John, just because of the works and Paco. I just thought I'd take a chance and beat the logical favorite in there.
All right, 2 deep wrapping it up there in race number 5. Recent trainer changes, including Larry Bates with the 3 Can't Catch Channeled, and the likely favorite, the 4 Zero Z, who's going to be. Did you take 0? No, you got that horse second.
I got him. Yeah, I went with my long shot in there, Proud Legacy, who I like turning back to 5 furlongs and putting the blinkers back on for Phil Combest. We'll see if we can get that one home at a big price.
Nice. If your long shot wasn't in that race, though, or I would imagine taking your long shot out of the mix, Ronnie, Zero Z is a legit favorite, right?
Absolutely the one to beat. But, you know, looking for a little bit of a price there, 15-1, and I just like the way that horse runs at 5. We'll talk about that race when we get to it.
Absolutely, because there's a lot to discuss in this opening race today, the first of 9 on this second Friday of our little autumn racing season in Miami Gardens, and the first of 5 turf races on the program. And in fact, both Stronach 5 races from Gulfstream Park West will be conducted on the turf, which is pretty cool. And there's some big fields. And this is a good scene setter. It's quality and it's a big field. And we got a number of horses with that quality who are just in form and pretty sharp. And for me, I thought a good little starting point, if you will, would be the number 8 Gray Dude, who's one of 3 dropping out of this race back on September 21st. We'll check out him basically closing like a wild horse here from 7th early, running away and winning this race by open lengths. I see he's going off the claim today for trainer Juan Arriagada, who Mike Welsh of the Daily Racing Form, pretty nice write-up over on DRF.com. Juan, Mr. Juan A, as we call him, has gotten off to a good start here at Gulfstream West.
Yeah, and great dude, as you can see, was very impressive. Was 16 lengths back early going and just came back and really took the field by the horns going through the stretch. So we'll see if that horse can do it. But I did go a little different way. I went with the number 3 in here, Flashy Chelsea, who's stepping up to the next level. And this horse is so consistent. That's why I put it on top of the ticket. Had that hard-fought score against those 16 starter optional claimers last time out. It's the consistency for me that put this one a little bit over the top of Gray Dude, and that's the way I saw it. And I was looking at your ticket on it. The only difference we had was the 2 horse in here I added who ran well on the turf here during 2017. Sarah Nagel, Jonathan Gonzalez. Maybe a little bit of a long shot in there, a 6-time turf winner.
Yeah, who's not a long shot now, taking all the early play here as the number 2 bird. That, of course, you probably bet maybe $20 to win on this horse, right? And that is Rock the Tote Board with 51 minutes.
Yeah, and it's very early in the wagering, but bird humor, the word is out on the bird. No, everybody's heard about the bird.
You know it, dude. All right, let's move on to the second race as we hit the main track. 2-year-old $16,000 maiden claimers ready to battle in the opening leg of Friday's early pick 4. Don't love the rail, but I'm hoping an alert breaker and that early speed will overcome the inside post for the number 1 Yale Deal, who we have not seen in close to 4 months, but judging from that debut for Kathleen, this horse is very well spotted for 16.
Yeah, stepping up to face winners. You were talking about that performance. That was its $25,000 career debut, going 4.5 furlongs. It's Kathleen, it's Edgard, and I thought the same way. Going to deal with the inside post, and you could look at our selections. We got the same trifecta because Deep Fire is the one that, with the turn back, you don't know what you can get with this horse. To sprint distance on the dirt, followed the maiden breaker on the main track, comes back, stalks and fades. But that's in a 7.5 furlong, $125,000 Proud Man. The old turf for dirt angle with Paco Lopez in the saddle. Didn't really know what to do with that horse, but I was afraid to leave him off my ticket.
Dry track debut for a horse who's run twice on the dirt, both for Gilberto Zerpa. So we'll see. Yvonne will have to take this horse successfully off of Mr. Zerpa, who we all know is batting about 45% on the year. But I did think it was interesting. This colt by Drosselmeyer has not run on a fast track. He's got those 2 races over wet tracks across town. Moving on to the third, Grudge Match Showdown Central, as we bring on these 3 and a filly mare, $35,000 to $25,000 maiden claimers, and a race for all intents and purposes will likely come down to the 2 favorites, and the 1 Heidi Ho and the 2 Queen of Credit. Ultimately, I'm not sure who ran the better race because they both ran just okay, with all due respect. I wasn't blown away with either of their efforts in a race we'll show you from September 23rd. Heidi Ho, keep in mind, was 80 cents to the dollar, and she was up close. She's got a couple of duelers in front of her who are both big long shots. Queen of Credit, meanwhile, is the number 5, who basically tried to follow Heidi Ho around that far turn. Now, Heidi Ho, with Jesus Rios on the afternoon, got a great ride. I mean, she angled out after sitting the pocket, and she's just a little flat with no punch, whereas Queen of Credit was able to save ground every step of the way and just loses the tight photo for the place spot. I'm giving, in what's a close matchup, I think, in terms of ability, the edge and the decision of Queen of Credit. She'll be a slightly higher price, Ronnie, and ultimately she has started fewer times than the 1 Heidi Ho.
Yeah, and Heidi Ho, as I mentioned, the reason I went there was because I think this horse needed the blinkers after watching that last race. She returned. That was after a 2-month layoff. She had a little problem early on. You saw her run second in there. It's Efren Loza Jr. Really respect the work he does. Queen of Credit. These 2 are so evenly matched. Kathleen O'Connell has Carlos Montalvo in the saddle today on Queen of Credit. So we'll see how these 2 run against each other. Closed it out with the 5 expect an entry. This one just best distance is this distance right now.
Yeah, I agree.
2 for 4 in the money at the distance.
Yeah, she is who she is, but 5 does seem to be the right distance for her, and she was scratched out of a turf race here yesterday afternoon in favor of running against both Heidi Ho and Queen of Credit. As we take a little breather here on this live edition of Gulfstream West today, Stronach 5, Pick 5, and Rainbow 6 Mania after this.
Whether you're at home or at the track, have a stake in the race when you bet with ExpressBet. Sign up for an ExpressBet online betting account and receive up to a $500 sign-up bonus.
Here we go. It's week number 3 of the Stronach 5, 12% takeout, $1 minimum. And keep in mind, last week paid more than 5 times the $1 win parlay. We've got some of the best minds here at the Stronach Group, some of the best handicappers in the game, formulating an all-star ticket just for you. That totals $72. The action gets underway Friday afternoon with that opening leg, race number 7 at Gulfstream Park West. Best of luck. And as we welcome you back to this edition, Friday edition at that, of Gulfstream West today from Miami Gardens, I think, and look at that all-star ticket for the Stronach 5. Everyone, if you're playing, and we hope you are because it's just a 12% takeout wager, you're going to have to put on your thinking caps a little bit. It's a big sequence, and these races are tough, and I'm curious to see who you got cooking.
Well, I actually got to do the show with you, and I actually handicapped the 2 races here for the Stronach 5, and I went 3 deep in the opening leg here in the first leg in race 7 on our card, and this was just a wide-open race, and I used the 3, the 10, and the 11 in there, and I just wanted to make sure I had some coverage. There you see it. Then I went with the 4 and 9 out at Santa Anita, and I just those were the logical 2 horses. 3 deep again at Gulfstream Park with the 1, the 8. Remember the name of the horse. Remember the Maine. This horse going to be a price. Snuck through on the inside like that one. 2 deep at Laurel. I listened to my buddy Stan, and in the last race I got the logical 2 with the 1 and the 9. So that was my ticket, $72. And remember the Maine is the sneaky for me, and that's in the 3rd leg, and of course Gulfstream Park's 8th race.
Yeah, GPW's got a couple of races in the mix, $72 for Ronnie with that $1 minimum. And I've got the same $72 with some different horses, of course. They're not the same ticket. I'm 311 to start things out in the GPW 7th race. The edge goes to Marcus Vitale's horse because I think that horse, and that is the number 3 in that race, Secret of Life. That horse has been long, somewhat successfully on the turf, and has a better post than all of the other major players, at least on paper, who are saddled with way tougher outside posts. One race I really like, and again, no singles. I tried coming up with a single to get it down to $36, but in the end, for me anyway, it was just kind of a futile exercise. But the one real highlight to this week's sequence is the last leg, the 4th on this Friday afternoon from Santa Anita. I mean, I love maiden races in general, and that is a maiden race with a field of 9, Ronnie, where 7 of the 9 on the turf are coming out of the exact same race at Del Mar.
So you're talking about a rematch. That is what you call the rematch. I went with 2 deep in there, and I used that horse Amuse from Richard Mandela with Mike Smith, the number 9, which you also have on your ticket. So interesting to see how it plays out. I thought the Gulfstream West races were really competitive, and that's why I stretched out in those couple of races there, went 3 deep in each one.
Let's see how much money in about maybe 2 minutes we can blow up in this segment. So we're down theoretically. Well, not down, but that's $144 between us in the Stronach 5 with our $272 plays. And are we going for $43.20 in the Rainbow Schmainbow today?
We're going for $28.80 today. Didn't find a single, and there's $4,000 plus in the pool. And as I mentioned a little earlier, my long shot comes in race number 5. It's the 10 Proud Legacy. Won at the 5 furlong distance, a couple of starts back. Stretched them out. They added the blinkers back today. You're looking for a little price. Almost singled in the last race, so know if you did. The number 2, Gran Bonita Chica, 7-5 on the morning line, and at Gulfstream Park West, race number 8. You know, Victor Lounge from the what's his name, barn, Danny Cargan's barn. I just thought he was the one to beat in there, but went too deep in that one, too.
Yeah, Danny had entered a couple of horses in today's 8th race at GPW. He scratched Congruity, who I liked a little more than Victor Lounge prior to scratches. But that scratch does, in my opinion, move up Victor Lounge and may ultimately just alter the pace for the better for that barn with Danny Gargan sending out the Irish bred. So it all begins in race 4 and a good-looking 3-up filly mare maiden special weight on the fast GPW main track in the Rainbow 6. We've got a field of 7, a couple of firsters on the outside, one of which goes out for Todd Pletcher, pricey gray filly. They're all pricey, aren't they, by Tappet? And then Ronnie's top pick, the Gospel of John, who he can tell you about in just a couple of seconds. First up, though, is Bodie Babe, who ran just 15 days ago to close things out at Gulfstream Park. She was hammered out. She was whispered at being a pretty good horse. She ran against the boys that afternoon, and she seemingly lost all chance as soon as they sprung the latch. She stumbled. I mean, that stumble was really bad. She's got horses coming in on her, over on her, and she was bumped around and just had no position after that disastrous beginning. I'm going to bite here, hook, line, and sinker, and I'm hoping that money with that educational run, we'll call it, tough luck educational run under her belt, she takes a step forward.
Yeah, you know, I went back and watched that race a couple of times after the stumble because she just never looked comfortable after that. I think it just took her out of her game. So, and she was the big favorite. She's that $140,000 daughter of Bodie Meister. So I would definitely not leave her off my ticket. And I went with horses that were working well. And that was my thought process with going with the 7, the Gospel of John, who's the daughter of 2 Honor and Serve, debuting for Yvonne Belsour with back-to-back bullet workouts showing on the Gulfstream main track. It's a sophomore. She gets LASIK. She's got Paco Lopez in the saddle today, and I just thought she was the one to beat off those works. And I'm doing a little bit of guesswork. Bodie Babe, and you mentioned Todd Pletcher on the outside. He's probably going to take a lot of money with that horse.
Yeah, you would think. It's a tap-it, costs nearly $600K. Edgar Zayas rides, and the Pletcher barn, again, not to pile on here. It's not that way at all, but numbers are what they are. 2 for their last 24 here in South Florida, so this has not been your usual 30, 25%, 35% tour de force. We'll see how Kitty Foyle does.
Well, let me show you a stat on Todd Pletcher. First-time starters at 3-year-old filly, sprints on the dirt. He's really good. 34 for 126, 27%, 63% the money, $1.56 return on investment. That's overall the last 5 years. And as Jason just mentioned, the last couple of months haven't been the same as those stats that you see up there. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. And a very interesting race to start the Rainbow Six. And the beauty of this race, starting in the Rainbow Six, couple of first-time starters, a horse that had trouble. You can watch the board. Maybe that'll point you in the right direction.
All right, fast and firm as we move on to this Friday 5th race. Started the late pick 5. First 9-race card we've had this week. In fact, 10s lined up on both Saturday and Sunday at Gulfstream West. But 9 today as we bring on a field of 11 in the opening leg of the late pick 5. That sees me right off the bat. I had used a couple of horses in the first pick 5, but opted just to stand alone with the number 4, Zero Z, who for all intents and purposes, I think is significantly the horse to beat off a well-measured win in her debut for Safi a few weeks ago at Gulfstream Park. You get a little Paco Lopez. The best dirt race today, I think, at Gulfstream West is race number 6. That is a very deep $30,000 to $25,000 claimer in which you and I basically see eye to eye with Powerful Venezuela and Rich's Gifts.
Yeah, those look like the logical 2 in there. And then Fafa, you know, I just thought that Gelded Son of Blame might be able to run in that spot.
All right, moving on to the the 7th race, rather, and that'll start the Stronach 5 naturally. Secret of Life to 3. Likely will be favored off a week-and-a-half turnaround and a better post and some route experience on the turf as opposed to some of his, or her in this case, competition who are saddled with way tougher posts towards the outside and have predominantly just sprinted on the grass. 3 deep for me in race number 8. That'll be the 3rd leg in the Stronach 5 on this Friday afternoon, and that is just an insanely tough turf race where ultimately, Ronnie, I think for the better, scratching congruity may help out your top pick, Victor Lounge, who I had to add to my play here.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought Victor Lounge off that really nice performance up on the yielding course at Belmont to win it by 6 lengths was a logical contender. As I mentioned when I was showing you my Rainbow Six, I think the sneaky in the race is the 8. Remember the Maine, who just snuck up on the inside. It was a really great race last time out, but I think you got the logical ones. And it didn't use your 3. I noticed that you used the 3 in there. One of the horses I didn't use on my Stronach 5 ticket.
It's a big drop for a horse that had cost a lot and obviously just hasn't panned out. One of the few, it seems, E5 racing horses that hasn't been a major Grade 1 stakes winner in the Great Scatsby. And I'm too deep to wrap things up. You will see on this show, if you hang tight, and we hope you stay with us the remainder of the day, not just on Gulfstream West today, the whole entire card. You'll see the last out replay of the 2 Grand Bonita Chica. And if you like her, and I think she'll run well today along with Kathleen's horse in the race, you're hoping for some improvement. Her debut, green effort, didn't look all that perhaps perhaps prepared, for lack of a better word, hoping she's just a little fitter and a little better, both mentally and physically, second time out. But anyway, it all begins with race number 5, the sequence here, and I'm curious as to what's going on with your long shot here.
Well, 15-1 on the morning line, and this one a $10,000 two-lifetime winner at this 5-furlong distance, a couple of starts back. Going to turn back, track the action last time out, flattened out a little bit in that race, finished 5th. That was against 10 three-lifetime competition, going 7.5 furlongs. Phil Combes, what I like, going to add the blinkers back when he turns it back. It's a long shot possibility in there. That was my thought process in there. But as you mentioned, and you're single, and here's the one to beat, Zero Z.
Zero Z is coming in off a win. The pace this go-round, because this horse wired in his, or her debut rather, for Saffie Joseph and owner Matthew Scherer at Gulfstream, may have to rate a little bit today, depending upon what Salsalita does, along with the number 8, Better Be Fast. They are very fast, need the lead type, so the tactics or dynamics might be a little different. She's the best horse going in, though. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. I want to show you a stat on Mr. Saffie Joseph Jr. over the last 5 years. Winner last out, claimers on the turf. 3 for 17, 18%. He's in the money 65% of the time. $1.17 return of investment. So Zero Z, proud legacy. See if we can win one for my old buddy Phil Combes.
All right, here's race 6 back on the main. Favorite dirt race in my eyes this afternoon in South Florida. $30,000 to $25,000 claimers, knocking heads here, and a good recent race from the one Powerful Venezuela. And I don't know if I would have predicted this at the time I did the work on this card a few days ago, but running second these days to the best Candy, that seems to be a pretty good accomplishment. That horse just came back, upset yesterday's 7th race, skimming the rail. 3rd win in 20 days for that horse, who's really gotten good. So I'm going to take Powerful Venezuela over your top pick, the number 4, Rich's Gifts.
Well, Rich's Gifts is going to turn back to its best distance. 5 races at the distance with 3 wins after his 3-race win streak ended. He bobbled very slightly at the start, really not going to affect him that much. Finished 5th. It was a 10 starter optional claimer, going a 1-turn mile across town at Gulfstream Park. Joe Orsino got Romero Mirage in the saddle as Sammy Camacho sticks with Powerful Venezuela.
Yeah, he's riding for Victor Barboza Jr. here, and meanwhile, Romero Mirage picks up that horse for Joe Orsino and Rich's Gifts, who do note the win 2 back. Remember the trip musical Hard had, you know, not to really elaborate too much, but there was a little bit of an issue there. So that race perhaps doesn't look as good as it would have been, because this horse likely would have been picked off, but a major player nonetheless. And I see you got a little Fafa Fohai in the mix. What's the story with Fafa?
Well, this one is interesting to me. Besides the name, he's dropping to the 25 level, turning back to 3/4 a mile. Stalked the pace, stayed his last time, faded to finish second against 40 claimers, going 6.5 in the slop. Gelded Son of Blame definitely does his best running on a fast surface. I just think he has a shot in there this afternoon. Fafa.
Yeah, Fafa Fohai. little Baba Booey there, homage there to my Howard fans out there. And there are plenty of them, including a couple of guys upstairs in the TV control room. Here's race number 7 on the day. We are back on the turf. We get into that Stronach 5 territory. And, boy, we don't make it easy on anybody here, including us. We've got a dozen ready to roll in this oversubscribed field of 2-year-old filly $20,000 maiden claimers. And as I say, the race is pretty tough and competitive. You know, you do have maybe 3.5, 4 horses on paper that look to be maybe a notch above. And I've talked about it on the show already. I gave the edge to Secret of Life, the post, and this horse has already run, without winning, but has already run pretty well going long and 2 turns on the grass.
And don't forget, dropping to the 20 level this afternoon after stalking the pace along the inside, then makes an outside bid to finish 3rd behind a late runner, Zao's Dream. That was on opening day. And if you go back and look at the turf course on opening day, and I don't know if it was a bias, but all the winners came from off the pace. And this one was caught in the stretch. And just the better post this afternoon than the other contenders in this race. Thought Secret of Life was the one to beat, but I'm not 100%, not even 50% sold, and that's why I went 3 deep in my Stronach 5 ticket. I also used Box of Golden like you did, Velt, who looks like this one, daughter First Samurai, is bred to like the turf.
Yeah, no doubt. And you've got the Treasure Beach filly getting a little more real estate to play with in the 11 box of gold off a good interest finish up in her debut for Ralph Nix and Edgar Zayas.
Well, let me go back to Velt just for a minute because I want to show you stat on Antonio Santa because this one, as I mentioned, is debuting on the turf. We'll show you what he does with his 2-year-olds going to turf. He's 12 for 80. It's a big sample, 15%, and that's pretty good when you got 80 runners. 34% in the money, and somehow almost a $5 return of investment. So there was some bombers in there, and that is the 10 Velt, and that's why. That horse is the one that intrigues me in race number 7.
Okay, 311 exacta for us there for the boys in race number 7. It's on to the 8th. This is our turf double header in today's Stronach 5. 12 in the 7th race, followed by, well, prior to scratches, we had a field of 11. We had a couple of defections, including Danny Gargan in this $30,000 to $25,000 claimer, and half of the pair that he entered. And I was curious on paper because the way I was looking at this race, I'm going, man, congruity for Gargan and the 9 Victor Lounge, they could hook up from the gate and really take each other out of the race. I think a wise move taking congruity out, and I know you're a pretty big fan today. Is Victor Lounge your best bet on the card?
It is my best bet. I just really was impressed with his performance last time because not only did he draw up on the yielding course to win it, I just watched Jose Lezcano ride this horse. Never really had an anxious moment. He was just showing him the reins. He showed him the stick a couple of times, and he just cruised to the wire. He got Paco Lopez in the saddle today, and my long shot play, if you want to call it that, on the Stronach 5 ticket was the number 8. Remember the main from now moved to the Juan Carlos Abreu barn, but this one was so dead game last time out. Couldn't leave him off the ticket. He's a son of Court Vision, and it's a 3-time winner right here.
And he's one of a number of horses stepping up, per se, in this upcoming 8th race, and that includes my second horse for David Fawkes. I've got a Mr. Fawkes Exacta. I think Art of the Dream ran well enough that you might, for a horse who's still on the lighter race side, might be able to improve and take a step forward here at a big price as he faces better, and we'll see what happens with the great Scatsby. Obviously, they paid a lot. He hasn't panned out, but this is a significant drop in class from some of the horses that he has faced, and I'm going to try to wake him up as he plummets to 30,000. Again, does seem like one of the few E5 purchases that hasn't turned out to be a major graded stakes winner there. So we'll see what checks out and what happens, of course, in race number 8. And we have got one more for you coming up on the 9th. We end things after 2 consecutive races on the turf late in the day on the main track. And this 9th race is a lower-level maiden claimer, and it's a race that may ultimately put a big exclamation point on what could be a big Friday here in Miami Gardens for trainer Saffie Joseph Jr., who's got 2 potential favorites earlier in the day, including Zero Z and Bodie Babe, and he's in the mix undoubtedly with Grand Bonita Chica. And here's her first start here. She ran in late September, just a couple of weeks ago over at Gulfstream Park. She was chasing inside. She's about to angle out there above the 3/16 pole or quarter pole, and you can draw your own conclusions. I watched this race after looking at this 9th race today on paper, and in the end, her effort to me on paper looks a little better than it was on the racetrack, but you do have the benefit of a second-time starter here who hopefully, fingers crossed, is just a little sharper, maybe a little less green, and has her mind on running from the gate to the finish line.
And she was 3 to 5 that afternoon, so we'll see how she runs now. And you got a jock I'm not familiar with in the saddle today. Jalon Samuel is the guy named to ride. I got to find out a little bit about him a little later on. And I use my Mini Queen in second, and when it's done, when it's loved, we flip-flop our second and third selections.
All right,
there.
Perhaps an homage to Van Halen. I know that was a big hit for them back in the late 80s when Sammy Hagar started to front the band, and When It's Love, well-connected, just like the boys from Van Halen.
Oh, I thought you meant My Mini Queen.
No, My Mini Queen, why don't you write a song with that title?
I will, and send it to Van Halen.
You got it, man. You ready for some Mike Carter and some GPW racing action?
Absolutely. It's going to be a great day. We got the Rainbow Six, and don't forget the Stronach 5, only that 12% takeout. We'll be talking about it all day long.
A world-class athlete, show jumping star Todd Minikis is quite familiar with a thoroughbred's potential. With over 130 national and international Grand Prix wins on his resume, Minikis had a huge amount of success with his gray thoroughbred Thrilling, and he's always searching for that next great project.
I'm involved with Purina as an ambassador, and at one of our Purina meetings that we had, They told me about the Florida track program, and sounds very interesting to me. Most of my career, certainly at the beginning of my career, I had great success riding thoroughbreds, and I think they still are probably the best athletes. And so my ears perked up when I heard about the program. We used to go to the racetrack all the time when we were younger to try and buy horses, you know. It wasn't our first day of looking at thoroughbreds off the track. Maybe my best 2 horses I ever had were thoroughbreds off the track.
Minicus recently adopted 2 thoroughbreds from Florida track, Spirit and Going Home. Going
Home is a 5-year-old, and we've had him for like a week now, and we've got him so he can jump around a small course, which is kind of in that shorter period of time is remarkable. The other one was an unbroke horse, and we've gotten him to the point now where we can sit on him and walk. We haven't gotten past the walk yet, but I think he's a quick study, and he'll soon be jumping around a little course as well. I think it's important that these horses get a second chance. One horse that we have Going Home, I think he's going to be a great horse for a kid and whatnot. And in the meantime, we're having a lot of fun training a thoroughbred.
The thoroughbred used to be the it horse in the 70s and 80s, and while much of the show world has shifted to using warm blood horses, Minicus still believes that the thoroughbred can compete at the highest level.
We stopped looking into the thoroughbreds, and maybe programs like this will help reopen people's eyes to the thoroughbred and not be so tunnel vision about the warm blood. He's got great technique, and he's got a lovely stride on him, and those are the things that make a difference at the end of the day.